This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this.
Very good morning, Wednesday the 6th of July. Good, yeah, it's wet. July and it's wet. Where's the summer gone? I'm enjoying these morning transmissions. I don't know about you lot, but I'm genuinely enjoying it. It breaks up my day. I usually start about 5 o'clock, so it gives me a half an hour sort of a morning transmission. Give you an update of what's going on. Who knows? If I can make it work, I'll make it into a permanent or semi-permanent feature. It works for a number of reasons. I know some of my audience is older and they're retired, so they work from home or they're based at home, so it works for them. My Muslim, my Asian friends, my Bangladeshi and Pakistani friends who work the night shifts around about getting up now, or those who are looking after the houses and looking after the elderly friends, and they're usually having breakfast about now. I just had breakfast. And those of you who work also get to have a coffee break around now. So I'm liking these. My viewing figures are pretty good for considering what we are in terms of how it all pans out. As always, these transmissions, they only work if you share them, if you like and share them. YouTube sends an algorithm out, and hopefully, particularly for small, with a channel such as mine, with, I think, what have I got now? 800 subscribers, just over 800 subscribers. It makes all the difference. So, thank you. I put you on the car while I drive better than any talk station. Okay. So, and my friend Bert has just messaged me. Don't forget your sick friend. Spot on. Just finishing my breakfast. So, yeah, I'm definitely enjoying this. And one of the reasons why I'm enjoying it is because the amount of abuse and harassment I get from people who, to all extents and purposes, want you to stop listening to me. I'm not making anyone listen to me. I've never made anyone listen to me. And they want you to stop listening to me. So they create these fake accounts. I think the latest is on one of the Westwood pages. Dave Jones, I think he's called himself. And it's clearly some Asian lad. You can tell by the language and the way in which they're writing what they're thinking in their head, and some of the grammar. My friend Moyeb rang me last night. He was a bit upset. This is a lad who's had his house. They tried to burn his house down. These fake accounts have gone online on some of these pages, and they're abusing him. And of course now Moyeb isn't. He's not like me. I'm fortunate in many ways. One, I don't live in the heart of the community anymore, and the other thing is I have a young daughter. Moyeb has children who are social media savvy themselves. Imagine turning on your Facebook page and reading horrendous abuse targeted at your father with all sorts of names. Yeah. So let's start with Let's start with Sam Al-Hamdani. Now, I've got some stick off some friends of mine, people I consider to be friends of mine, regarding me supporting Sam Al-Hamdani's letter this morning, but it popped up in The Guardian, and I think it's valuable. I think I'll get into the politics in a moment, but let's just go through the letter first. So the value in this, let's just make this bigger if I can, there you go. The value in this is that it's published in The Guardian. There you go, it's in The Guardian, published in The Guardian. And Sam Al-Hamdani has written to The Guardian. And the headline in The Guardian is "Disgraceful Failures of Greater Manchester Police Continue." Now remember, the police are trying to politically persecute me for highlighting many of their failings. So when others come out and also, for whatever reason, also criticise the police and point out these failings, it helps me because I am the man who's facing trial, by the way. No one else is facing trial. I'm the one who's facing trial on the 15th of August for doing what I've done, which is holding a corrupt council and a corrupt Greater Manchester Police to account. That's why they've charged me. They've not charged me for what they've claiming I've done. They've not sent 6 police officers through my front door and kept me on bail for 6 months and waited 9 months, and one trial collapses and another farcical trial next month. They've not done that because of what I've said. They've done that because of what I've exposed. So, Oldham Councillor Sam Al-Hamdani on the systematic failings of the first police force to be placed in special measures. I'll get into the politics in a minute. And this is his letter. Sorry, let me just turn this bloody doorbell thing off. I had to have one fitted after, well, you know why. Do not disturb. There you go. While there has been much focus on the Metropolitan Police being placed into special measures, Greater Manchester Police, the first force to be placed into that category, has received much less attention. And the reason it's received much less attention is because the Northern Press, the Manchester Evening News, the Oldham Times, the Oldham Chronicle, all of them are linked to Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham is the Police and Crime Commissioner, and that's why it's been hidden. Because a failing on Greater Manchester Police reflects badly on the man they want to be the next Labour Party leader. So they're all in it together, which is why that's took place. The charge sheet against Greater Manchester Police is long and disheartening. 80,000 cases, 1/5 of those reported, not recorded. At least £27 million wasted on a failed crime recording IT system. Serial warnings that there were failing domestic abuse victims. And sadly, too many more to recount. In a review into child sexual exploitation in Oldham last month, the authors noted that GMP provided no information for the first 2 years of their investigation. By the way, their investigation only covered 3 years. And only with regard to one of the 11 cases under review, and one member of the Rochdale grooming gang, both of which showed repeated failures. So there are 11 cases mentioned in that report, in that assurance review. The only one Greater Manchester Police shared information on was Sophie's case. The 10 others they hid. That's what Sam Al-Hamdani, the 10 others they hid. And for 2 years, of the 3 years of the assurance review, they failed to provide a single document. Little wonder that the authors concluded that they struggled to provide assurance on Greater Manchester Police's performance. That means, that's code for saying, we cannot give you assurance that they did not cover up the grooming and gang rape of God knows how many children. They don't even know how many children. That's what they're saying, because Greater Manchester Police did not provide the figures. They don't even know how many children. And because of the police's lack of cooperation, they don't know if the police is in any better condition now than they were then. It is disgraceful that the Met has been placed into special measures. It is worse that Greater Manchester Police had already and yet has sunk further. For the sake of officers and residents alike, there must be change. Councillor Sam Al-Hamdani, Liberal Democrat, Oldham Council. There are reasons why I'm not a politician. One is I don't think enough people would vote for me, if I'm honest with you. I'm far too frank. I don't suffer fools. And I will call out prejudices where I see them. I'm not, contrary to what is claimed, I'm not a populist. Another reason is it genuinely terrifies me having to be in spaces, share spaces with politicians. Because they change their opinion like the wind and they will make the most out of any opportunity that comes along. Now, I'm not doubting Sam Al-Hamdani's motives for calling out police corruption, because that's what he's making reference to. Police corruption, cover up. He's making specific reference to the cover up. It's just the contradictions I also struggle with. The Liberal Democrats abstained and failed to support the Conservatives and Brian Hoban earlier. And also they've got their own issues with Howard Sykes doing what he did to Anita Lowe here. And also Rod Blythe, and how the Liberal Democrats had to have been complicit. Councillors had to have been complicit in that cover-up. But that's by the by. That's by the by. We have a meeting coming next week. We have a council meeting coming next week, and there's a fails with independent party motion. And from this letter, I can only assume that the nine Liberal Democrats will support the 5 fails of independents. And based upon what the Tories have said, the Conservatives have said, I can only assume that they will support that vote as well. So 9 plus 9 plus 5 is 23. Add Montaz and you've got 24. I'm presuming Montaz will vote accordingly. I'm sure Moya will have a conversation with him. And that's exactly the point, John, isn't it? How can we ensure the correct process and systems are now in place if we do not know the gravity of the failings before, the cover-up before? And this was hidden in the small print of the report. Now, how can Amanda Chadderton, the leader of the council, with a daughter herself, now refuse to support this public inquiry, calls for this public inquiry? How can her and her Labour Party do that? Like I said to you, Theresa, I'm not here to defend the man. I'm not here to defend the man. I've never met the man. I'm not here to defend the man. And for those of you who are viewing this, you know I've been critical of him and all the others I doubt. You know, he's blocked me, I think, on Facebook because I give it him. But here he is, making political gain, of course, because that's what politicians do. Here he is writing a letter, and it's published in The Guardian. And it's published in The Guardian in black and white, clearly stating that the police covered up child abuse in Oldham. Not only are they in special measures, they refuse to cooperate with the assurance review and covered up child abuse in Oldham. What do you want me to say? One of the reasons I have the audience I have is because I will criticize my friends, and likewise I will applaud they're not my enemies, but those who I have strong reservations over when they do the right thing or when they've done the wrong thing. Surely that's why I have the audience I have, or at least one of the reasons I have the audience I have. She's the leader of the council, Lynn. How can the leader of the council not support calls for an independent inquiry? Unless she is a puppet, as you suggest. And the only puppet master I see here is Jim McMahon, now MP. Because he was the leader of the town. He was the council leader. And he still has not made a single apology. So let's park that for a minute. But well done to the Liberal Democrats for getting this letter out. And to my friends in the Conservative Party, what are you doing? You're meant to be the opposition. You've got the same number of councillors. It's your party in government. Just what on earth are you doing? Move on. I need to apologise to Chris Bowen. I called him Chief Inspector throughout yesterday, I think. He's actually Chief Superintendent. My apologies. I don't know how the hierarchy in the police force works, but I presume a Chief Superintendent is of significantly more standing than a Chief Inspector. So my apologies. Yes, Gary. That's exactly what it is, isn't it? But come on, Gary. Conservative candidate, my friend. Where on earth are the Tories, mate? Where on earth are the Oldham and Saddleworth Conservatives? Chief Superintendent Chris Bowen was forced yesterday to issue a statement, a press release. Let me play it first and then I'll critique it afterwards.
Okay, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Chief Superintendent Chris Bowen. I'm the District Commander here at Oldham, and this is my colleague Syed.
I'm Syed Osman. I'm Deputy Chief Executive at Oldham Metropolitan Borough Council.
And we've invited you here today just to have a quick update really on a current situation that we're dealing with in Oldham. I wanted to take a moment of everybody's time just to kind of set the record straight on what's happened, where we've been and how we've ended up into this position. And then also to give you an update on the investigation, and then to appeal for some further assistance from the community and to get some key messages out there if you give me that opportunity. So firstly, we became aware of an assault which took place on the 21st of June. At that time, officers attended immediately at the scene, assisted with the ambulance, made sure that the young gentleman involved was taken to hospital and received the appropriate care. At that time, for a number of reasons, it was very hard to get a true and accurate reflection of what had happened. There was issues around the injuries it sustained and the issues that we had around language, which we were dealing with through an interpreter. At the time, the incident was crimed, it was allocated an investigator, and the following day, CID did attend to speak to the gentleman in hospital and further details were obtained. But at the time, there was no CCTV. He was unable to give us any description of the individuals that were involved. So it became a slow time investigation as we moved through a painstaking approach of trying to look at CCTV in the area to see who approached the scene and who left the scene at the time. We became aware on the weekend of a video circulating in the community. As soon as we were aware of that video, we took action. As a direct result of that information, that video and the information received from members of the public, 3 people were arrested over the weekend in relation to that incident. Those 3 people are now on strict police bail as we continue with our investigations. We are also seeking a number of further individuals who have been involved in the incident, and we'll give you updates on those over the coming days as our investigation continues. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the community for coming forward with that information that assisted us in taking the investigation forward. But I would also like to ask the community to give us the opportunity to deal with the incident, to give us the time and the space that we need to conduct a thorough investigation, not to speculate on things on social media, and that if they do get any information they believe that can assist us, to pass it to us straight away. Retaliation in any form is counterproductive. It heightens community tensions and it makes a situation worse. Retaliation will be treated as seriously as the initial offence. And for those involved in retaliation, arrests will follow and the full might of the law will be used in exactly the same way as we will use it against the initial offence. Therefore, my appeal to you today is, if you have any information that can assist with our inquiries, please tell us. If you want to tell us anonymously, tell Crime Stoppers and they will pass that information on for us. But my biggest appeal is an appeal for calm. And what I'd like to do also is to give reassurance to the communities of Oldham that we are there for you whilst this is going on. There will be an increased visibility of officers out and about in the area over the coming days. We will be using powers under Section 60 in order to search people for weapons. Weapons will not be tolerated on the streets of Oldham, and positive action will be taken. So I ask for one last time, please, work with us, not against us. Together we can make a stronger Oldham for everybody, a safer Oldham for everybody, and ensure the investigation is concluded appropriately.
As Oldham Metropolitan Borough Council, we work very closely in partnership with GMP, with the police. Myself and Chris jointly chair the Community Safety Partnership as well. And what we are appealing for is for the community to work with us. If you have any information, if you have any concerns, then contact Crime Stoppers, contact the police on 101. And what we're saying is many of your elders are working with us to try and bring calm. The perpetrators will be arrested and justice will be served in an appropriate manner. But you have to give space for the right investigation to take place. That takes time. It's about accuracy. It's about doing things in the right way. Please work with us.
Okay. Before I critique it, what do you make of it? What do you make of that? Yeah. You're right, John. You're right. They make telling lies look effortless. They no longer have a shred of credibility. Hang your heads in shame. The only time they do anything is when pressure is exerted. Okay, I have some issues with that, and I'll go through them. The first issue I have with that is confirmation from Greater Manchester Police, from the Chief Superintendent, that they attended the crime scene. They attended the crime scene of an attempted murder. Or am I exaggerating what all of you, or many of you, have now seen in that video? It's an attempted murder. They attended a crime scene of an attempted murder. A young man's beaten, senseless, terrified, rushed to hospital. And the excuse offered by Chief Superintendent Chris Bowen is there's two excuses. One is they couldn't get much sense out of him at the time. Well, I'm sorry, if I'd been battered to within an inch of my life, I doubt I would be coherent. It's not a unique set of circumstances for the police to come across when they've attended an attempted murder scene, is it? Someone battered to within an inch of their life. And the second reaction, I'm flabbergasted by. There were language problems. Mate, you've got police officers who speak Bangla. There are doctors and nurses in the hospital who speak Bangla. Language problems, my arse. This was an attempted murder and you're trying to flip it onto the victim. He didn't give us the information because he didn't speak English properly and because we couldn't make much sense out of what he was saying because he'd been battered to within an inch of his life. Here is the Chief Superintendent shifting responsibility on the failings of his police officers and accusing the victim. He's accusing the victim. He's shifting responsibility onto the victim. He didn't give us a clear description. No. And then he shifts onto this nonsense about there was no CCTV footage, but then he talks about CCTV footage, but that's complete irrelevance. Complete irrelevance, because he admits that there was nothing for 11 days until the video started circulating. So this is my point. This is my point. Ordinarily, on an attempted murder, go on Greater Manchester Police's Twitter page. Go on their Facebook page. They call for witnesses. They call for witnesses to come forward. Why did Chris Bowen's accelerated Greater Manchester Police, accelerated Special Measures Greater Manchester Police, not call for witnesses to come forward? Why did they not go knocking on doors and asking people what had happened? Had anyone seen anything? Why did they not set up a crime scene there and ask pass up? It was broad daylight. People would have been going shopping. No, mate. They did none of that. They did none of that from what I can tell. No police statement via press for witnesses. See? Blaming the victim seems to keep happening. It does, doesn't it, Julie? There's a pattern here. How exactly, Sally Ann? How to get away with attempted murder? Make sure you attack someone with a language barrier. Absolute joke. It is. It's reprehensible. This is a police officer, the chief superintendent, who you all saw read off a script like a muppet. No emotion in his voice whatsoever, like a robot. I am sorry. I can't do a Welsh accent, sorry. We are deeply sorry. Sorry. We will catch the criminals. And he's saying it again. We'll catch the criminals. No, you won't. You've lost all credibility in every community in Oldham. You've lost credibility in every community in Oldham, and you've made it worse. You've made it worse by demonstrating your innate racism. Shit, it's the Asian community. What do we need? Where's the chief executive? No, not the chief executive. Where's the leader of the council? No, not the leader of the council. Where's the local councillors? Oh, there's a reason why the local councillors aren't there. We'll get to that in a minute. Get me a brown face. Get me a brown face. Get me someone who looks like them. And then we can march in with take me to your leader as though it's something out of some bloody Rudyard Kipling book. So Saeed Osman comes along. Saeed Osman wouldn't know where Westwood was if he found himself in the middle of it nibbling samosas at Moyab's house. So the deputy chief executive, the token brown man, comes along to stand next to the policeman. And the token brown man does his thing. We have spoken to the elders in the community. Listen, mate, those kids who are smashing the windows, they don't care about the elders in the community. They want to be treated with the dignity and respect the same as every other community. Speak to them. Don't speak to the elders in the community. What is this nonsense? We have spoken to the elders in the community. We are working through the elders. Absolute numpty. We have spoken to the elders in the community. My friends in Caldas and Westwood want to be treated the same as everyone else, and they want crimes investigating the same. We don't want no elders in the community are negotiating with us on a settlement. No. Absolute joke. Absolute joke. Why wasn't the chief executive there? Why wasn't the MP Jim McMahon there? He's there to nibble samosas in Oldham Central Mosque often enough. Why wasn't he there? Where is the leader of Oldham Council? Where is Amanda Chadderton? It was a disgraceful press conference. He's also thanking the community for the free arrests they've made. From what I can make out, the free arrests they've made is when the mob, the vigilante mob, smashed those houses up, dragged those lads out and beat them up in houses in Westwood and Werneth. So is he thanking the mob? Is he thanking the vigilantes for doing their job for them? Is that what Chief Superintendent Bowen is doing? And Chief Superintendent Bowen's team only reacted after the mob had took to the streets themselves. It is a bad, bad precedent. You can't trust the police, and the only way of getting the police to act is when you take the law into your own hands. It is a bad precedent. It's not right. Where's your apology, Bowen? There isn't one. There wasn't an apology there. Did you hear an apology there? There wasn't an apology there. He's a disgraceful chief superintendent. He's absolutely a disgraceful chief superintendent. I've never come across anything like this in my life. Oldham deserves better than... He doesn't even realise he's doing it. He doesn't even realise he's doing it. And he's asking people not to listen to social media. He's asking people not to listen to social media. Well, the only reason you and your bent police force have acted is because of social media. The only reason you've been forced to, and you're still being dragged kicking and screaming. You're still being dragged kicking and screaming. Last night, someone else's house was smashed up. Another one of the attackers. The police know. Don't for a minute, don't think that the police don't know. The Westwood East was attacked again. And the longer the police behave in this way, I feel for angry young people in the community I was raised in who are criminalising themselves because of the failure of the police. And why was Osmond there? Why was the council officer there? It's because this is an ongoing partnership between a bent police force and an equally corrupt council who are busy having to protect each other, because the moment one of them turns on the other one will release the dodgy information they have on the former. It's a horrendous position to be in the town as a member of the public. The corrupt police force have dirt on the council, so the council can't hold them to account. And the corrupt council have dirt on the police force, which means the police can't hold the corrupt council to account. That's what is going on in this town, and that's why we need government intervention. And ordinarily, the MP would be calling this out. The MP would be issuing a statement and calling it out. But the MPs won't in Oldham because the MPs, Jim McMahon, Debbie Abrahams, are neck deep in the scandal themselves. That is what is taken place in Oldham. And I'm pleased you've not seen the video, Sue, because it's horrific. It's horrific. And yes, Gary, he'd like us to listen to the Oldham Times. The press, the council-sponsored press is what Chris Bowen would like us to listen to. So I will share with you now, if it's okay, if you've still got some time with me, I will share with you now what I've been able to piece together by speaking with members of the local community in Westwood and Coldest, where I do have friends and family, contrary to the latest round of abuse from the cartel foot soldiers. If you are finding value in this transmission, sorry, I am reminding myself, I've got to do this. Please press like. There is 124 of you who are viewing this on a Wednesday morning. And I've got 34 likes. Come on. A few likes would be nice, some shares. If you've not subscribed to the channel, click and subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing. I'm currently on 832. I need to get to 1,000 to open up some other features, so I would value that immensely. You can't, you see, Pauline, this is what they did. They created, you know, David Cameron, after all these scandal came out, there was an MP's recall bill. And by the time they changed it, they'd watered it down so much, it's almost impossible. It's useless. They've got to be convicted of an offence first, and then 50% of the electorate or something has got to vote for it. It's pointless. It's pointless. Because at the end of the day, sadly, as we can see, as we are finding out, dodgy MPs don't exist in one party, they exist across parties. And they all protect, in the end, they all protect each other. Chris Bowen talked about neighbourhood policing. I was sat yards away from him at the Andy Burnham event, the Meet the Mayor event. He talked about neighbourhood policing. If neighbourhood policing existed in Oldham, this would not have happened. Who is our neighbourhood police officer? Chris? Who is it? No one knows. There isn't one, is there, Chris? You're just full of shit, aren't you? You just wear your uniform and you're just full of crap. And where's the Police and Crime Commissioner? Where's Andy Burnham? Nowhere to be seen. I don't think so. I don't think so, because there isn't one community fighting another. The cartels have gone into hiding. The cartels have gone into hiding. Because if there was a fight between one group and another, the other group have got to turn up, and the other group won't turn up. The only way this will escalate into a riot is if the police escalate the situation and try and go and confront people who are angry that they aren't doing their jobs. The only way this will turn into a riot is if the police make it into a riot. There's a dozen members of that gang. The police know who they are. They need to be arresting them. And the reason why there's anger, the reason why fundamentally there's anger in Westwood and Coldest, and once people from outside of Westwood and Coldest understand what's going on, they share that rage, is because of the allegations of a cover-up. And when you are Greater Manchester Police in accelerated special measures, proven to have hidden evidence from the grooming gang inquiry, proven to be paedophile protectors, proven to have failed communities for the last five years repeatedly, and your reputation is in the gutter, with record numbers of police officers leaving, when you are that police force, the consequences of your failures is that no one believes you. You've lost all trust and you have no credibility left in the communities you police. And then you go and do this. So even if you're not involved in the cover-up, people think you are, because your actions, your history, your track record is that you are complicit and you are involved and you are dodgy. As I'm about to show you on the 15th of August, Greater Manchester Police. You are coming, aren't you, Christopher Dean? Detective, is it Chief Detective Inspector? You are coming, aren't you? You will be called to give evidence. You do know that, don't you? Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for the coffees. And if you are finding value in this, please do buy me coffees. This is to all extents and purposes my my full-time job these days, and it exists by, it's the equivalent of, I don't know how many of you now. There's 131 views. 130, it's the equivalent of 133 views, sorry. Now, by the time it's finished, there'll be 200 people who have watched this. 200 people bought me a coffee. I'd be done for the week. It'd be £400. I'd be done for the week. Really, it's as simple as that. If 200 people bought me a coffee, I'd be done for the week. No one trusts the police, and this is the mess we've got into, and the local kids, the local young men. It's not just young men. It's the young men who are doing the violence in the streets, and it's not what I agree with. It's not what I want to see. My friend Marcus phoned me up yesterday. Marcus was out with Azad, not last night, the night before at the Westwood East, when the Westwood East was smashed. Marcus is well respected in my community. And he's respected in part because when we were young, he was one of the angriest lads I knew. He'll tell you himself. His wife is the local solicitor, lovely lady. She was sat on Azad's table at the event on the end, for those of you who came. Both of them do lots of good work in the community and lots of charitable work. Neither of them are politicians. They just help the community. They're good people. Good people. Want nothing in return. Decent. They are decent people. And he phoned me yesterday. And it's like, Roger, we need to protect these kids. Because the police will turn on them. And having not done their jobs the way they should have, they will twist it and start beating up these kids and arresting these kids. And make it into something else. To distract and deflect away from their own failings. It's what they're good at. And I can't disagree with Marcus. I agree with him. He won't say it publicly. But that was the exchange I had with him. So I urge every one of these young people, please, no more smashing of the windows, no more dragging these people out. Post their names on the internet. Just post their names. Send me the names. Send me the names, and I will phone up Chief Superintendent Chris Bowen, and I will give him the names. By the way, that press release that GMP Oldham Central released on Facebook, there's not a single contact number on the Facebook post. Not an email address, nothing. That just shows a lack of sincerity, I think. So, to those lads, they will criminalise you. And they'll try and ruin your lives. Because that's what they do. That's what they did to a generation of kids in Bradford who rioted, Burnley, Oldham. To cover up their own failings. And they'll do it again here. So please, no. I know the Westwood East was attacked again last night. And I'll get to why it's been attacked. Or why the community, what the story in the community is, why it's been attacked. I fear it will be burnt down. The way things are going, I fear it will be burnt down. And my friend Bertie's just sent me a message. Another house was attacked last night. They can't blame us, Sue. Because the rage coming from this is coming from the Bangladeshi community in Westwood and Coldest. And this is why the rage is coming. The police's ineptitude. 1. An attempted murder and they don't even investigate it. That's really what happened. It's clear, I think, to all of us that's what's happened. A 19-year-old is lured into a trap, is beaten to an inch of his life, and what they were doing to him could easily have killed him. If you've seen that video, you'll see what the way they were beating him could easily have killed him. He's crying out in distress, "I'm dead, please, please, please." Crying out in distress. The chief superintendent is forced to issue a statement 2 weeks later after him and his dodgy police force have been caught with their pants around their ankles, blaming the victim for not being able to communicate what had happened to him properly. And then the angst in the community was that on the Sunday where I went to Montaz's celebration event, and Montaz, by the way, took time out, being the decent man he is, he took time out to go and listen to what people had to say and go and listen to what the police officers had to say. Better man than I am. I wouldn't have done that. But he took time out to go and listen. And Abdul Jabbar and Ruji Sultan, the other two councillors, were there with some police officers. And this is the story. I won't mention any names, but this is a story. There's a young girl at the centre of this. She's 17 years old. So when I say young girl, I'm a 50-year-old man nearly. So, you know, that's what I mean by a young girl. So there's a 17-year-old young woman at the centre of this. And remember, the victim was 19. Now, I don't think anyone anywhere is going to try and portray a relationship between a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old as in any way inappropriate. I'm not. I don't. So there's a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old. And the 17-year-old girl, her boyfriend found out, or her brother found out, that she was chatting to this 19-year-old lad. And she spun the story by saying it's unwanted attention. I'm not interested in him. He keeps mithering me. So she, to try and protect herself, this is like something out of some stupid Hollywood young teen movie. To try and protect herself, that she's not been flirting with some other bloke when she's got a boyfriend herself, she lured this boy into a trap where he was beaten to within an inch of his life. And for the best part of 2 weeks, nothing happened to those who'd beaten him up, and the police had gone away. The police had gone away. It then transpires, and again, I'm relaying what has been repeated many times on social media and has been relayed to me by people I trust in the local community. Then transpires, she's actually the niece of Abdul Jabbar, Councillor Abdul Jabbar, and the daughter of the guy who owns the Westwood East. And in a climate where there's no trust in the police, when the councillors are neck deep in corruption, and Jabbar had the tenacity, the audacity to stand there with the police officers on Sunday and pretend he had no prior knowledge of what was going on, that's what triggered it. Once people put the dots together and worked out where it had started, that's what triggered it. And the belief in the community, across the community, is that they were protected because of where the trail leads to, the niece of a councillor. Which is why Abdul Jabbar should resign. He should step down with immediate effect, pending an inquiry into what he knew beforehand. But this man is the Oldham equivalent of Boris Johnson, isn't he? He won't even share details of his relationship with Shabir Daddy Ahmed, the ringleader of the Rochdale grooming gang, and Amanda Chadderton won't suspend him because Amanda Chadderton is not really in charge of Oldham Council. It's Jim McMahon, and Jim McMahon relies on votes, that the block vote that Abdul Jabbar provides, and therefore he's immune from any form of scrutiny or oversight. And that is what is taking place in Coldust and Westwood and Coldust. The young lads have had enough of the cartels and the existing power structure. And in this steps the ignorant out of touch, knows nothing about our town or its communities. Deputy Chief Executive Saeed Osman. We are speaking to the elders in your community. We are working with them to resolve this situation. Dickhead. Where does the council find these morons? How much is he on? 150 grand a year? 200 grand a year? Who brought him in? It was Dirty Harry, wasn't it? He brought in one of his boys. So that's what's going on. The police know that's what's going on. The council know that's what's going on. Not one of them will issue a statement on the truth of what's going on, or reassure the public that they are aware of this and they are dealing with this. Instead, they're involved in a cover-up. Which is why the Westwood East was attacked again last night, and I genuinely fear for this restaurant. I've ate there many a time. I enjoy the meals there. The chef's a friend of mine. I know Jamal, the guy who runs the place, the owner. I ain't got an issue with Jamal. I'll say hello to him when I see him. I genuinely fear that this business will get burnt down. I genuinely fear that one of these lads that are being dragged out of their house by the vigilante groups, he'll tip and they'll harm him and someone will be killed. And it's all because of Chief Superintendent Chris Bowen and his inept team of police officers. Just reassure the public. We have not been bribed. We are not being pressured. This is not a cover-up, and we will go and arrest politicians if need be. But you won't, will you? Because the track record is you protect the politicians. What was his name? Detective Inspector? Kenny whatever? I am the council gatekeeper. Was that not the letter he sent out to victims of Sean Fielding? I am the council gatekeeper. I've decided there's nothing to see here, and I'm not going to question Sean Fielding, the leader of the council. This is what happens when you have a corrupt police force running side by side with a corrupt council. Yes, Anita, corruption at its finest. Yes, Sally, the rot does run so deep in this town. And I'm glad you find my Asian accent funny, Julie, because it's it's as contrived as well, you can tell, can't you? I had to learn how to do it in the restaurants when I was working in the restaurants, and some customers would come in wanting that authentic experience. This was the 80s, by the way. With my friends and I would all put on these contrived Asian accents. Thank you, Sue, for the 5 coffees. See, and that's the other thing. Most people who buy me coffees buy me 3 coffees or 5 coffees, so they spend like a £5 or £6. I spend a tenner. Oh God, I'd be all right. I'd be all right if just Never mind. So that's where we're up to. I hope you find value in these updates. They're not really transmissions, aren't they? These updates are, depending on how this plays out, I might end up doing a daily one for an hour or so a day. We're up to an hour, give or take. I'll take some questions before I leave. It started at 11. Oh, I turned it on about now, but there was a 10-minute countdown. So if you've got any questions, put them up. If there's anything you want to ask me, put them up, and I'll try to ask them. I've got a little bit of info left, and I'll get on with my day. So please, fire away. Fire away. And if you haven't already, there's only 42 likes. Come on. Come on, people. This is unfair. There's 142 viewers here. There's 62 people viewing right now, and I've only got 42 thumbs ups. Kenny Blaine, thank you. You reap what you sow, don't you? The absence of trust is a consequence of the actions. See you soon, Lynn. Yeah, the lads who did the beating up are from the area, Karen, or some of them are from the area. I think I shared it yesterday, but I'll tell you again. There is a divide in Westwood and Calder's. They're not all one. It's not all one community. The cartel foot soldiers, increasing number of the cartel foot soldiers, belong to what we refer to as the Italian contingent. These are new arrivals who came to the UK, Bangladeshis, but new Bangladeshi arrivals who came to the UK via Italy, where they were able to secure EU passports more easily. And then from Italy, they moved, they used the freedom of movement to come and settle in Oldham. Oldham is, I think, the country's second largest Bangladeshi community. So that's why they moved to Oldham. And they are cartel affiliated. They brought all of the politics from Bangladesh and reinforced the OBA cartel. It's hard to trust the police, isn't it? It's hard to trust the police. You enjoy the daily transmissions, yes, Thank you, Lee. Marcus indeed is right. Thank you. Thank you, Ellie and Cole. Yeah, I fear for it. I think it's going to get burned down, Gary. And it's the police's failure to issue a statement to give the reassurance that politicians and their families won't be protected. That's all it is. All the police have to do is reassure people that politicians and their families will not be protected. I don't know if people will trust them, but the starting point has got to be the admission that we have protected them in the past. We were wrong to do so. Detective Inspector Kenny Blaine is currently going through a disciplinary process. And no one is above the law. Instead, he's warning the young lads. Because that's what they do. They want to make an enemy out of the young lads and turn the attention. It's frustrations, isn't it? They can't do what they should be doing. So they wind themselves up and go and attack the very young people who are really the victims in all of this. The victims in all of this is the community. It's a community that's been failed for 25 years. Westwood East is owned by the Jabbar family. So the building was the old Conservative Club. And it was a dodgily purchased or dodgily refurbished before purchased using regeneration grants. And I think they purchased it via one of the extended family members so it can be one bit removed. And I'm happy to share this in this way because it's detailed in the Ritchie report. It's detailed in the Ritchie report where council officers repeatedly made reference to a man called Abdul Karim, who is Abdul Jabbar's brother, as was a senior council officer at the time, as corrupt. The consequence of the Ritchie report was that Abdul Karim had to resign. He now works somewhere in Greater Manchester, in Manchester, I think. But this is the other thing, I've not mentioned it. I need to mention it. My apologies to my friend who's just texted me. The Imam at Oldham Central Mosque. The Imam at Oldham Central Mosque, it's called Mufti, it's the Mufti actually, it's the name, but I know him as Imam. So the guy who does the sermons, the guy who does the sermons at Oldham Central Mosque has been sacked. He's been sacked following a sermon warning of knife crime and the need to work with our young people so they become better citizens, and warning against knife crime and all of those sorts of things. He's been sacked, and the people in control of the Oldham Central Mosque is the OBA. The secretary, the cartel, is in control of Oldham Central Mosque. The secretary of the mosque, the man who runs the mosque, the secretary, is a guy called Abdul Karim. Abdul Karim is the brother of Abdul Jabbar, and they've just sacked the imam who essentially spoke out against the attack. This is the cartel. This is why hundreds of young men are on the streets every night. They've had enough. They've had enough. No one lives up on top of the Westwood East. It's a banqueting hall in a venue. He lives in a nice house somewhere. So that's what it is. No, the title Mufti Lee, not Mufti as in the name of a person. It's just a title. It's Mufti. There's something else I was going to tell you to do with all of that. The young man, and this is another reason why these lads are angry. The victim, the young lad, is being threatened. His family is being threatened with deportation. The family overseas are being threatened. These are the stories that are going around. And he's already been offered bribes to drop the charges. And the problem with these stories is they have more than a grain of truth, because all of these things have previously been done to prevent prosecutions against cartel members. The threats against families overseas is normal in Pakistani and Bangladeshi families. A few years ago, there was a row between two school kids somewhere in Oldham. I think it was in Oldham. And someone was killed in Pakistan. Who? Brothers by marriage. Now, Abdul Jabbar and Abdul Karim are brothers. They're, siblings. Why doesn't Abdul Jabbar issue a statement? I did not have any prior knowledge of any of this when I spoke at the event on Sunday. And I encourage and support the police in going and arresting whoever they feel they need to arrest. Why does he not issue that statement? You've got to understand, for the police and the council to operate the way they do, the Crown Prosecution Service have to be involved somewhere in this, John. It's dodgy, Johnny. This is, the likelihood is I'm going to get convicted on August the 15th. That's how I feel. Because we are fighting a coordinated, powerful network of the police, the council, the mainstream media, and the CPS. The surnames don't work the same in our families. Gary, not everyone has the same surname. It just doesn't work the same. The surnames aren't family linked in the way they are in Western cultures. I think more so now they are, because our families, as in my, Bangladeshi and Pakistani, have adopted that Western surname model, but historically they weren't. He has gone back under the table, hasn't he, Tony? Where is his statement? Where is his statement? Outrageous. For harassment, Sally. Apparently it's harassment. I've got one trial outstanding for harassment. I won't mention the young woman's name because part of the police's case file for harassment was me naming her and saying I'm facing trial for harassment for X, X, and X. Apparently that was also harassment by naming who I was in trial for. What? Yeah. So CPS have been the problem throughout, haven't they? Look at the grooming gangs. Look at the grooming gangs. Where did it all? It's the CPS. Yes, Amanda, I agree with you. GMP are very good at disregarding video evidence, and you speak from experience. The police, Lynn, let's be clear here. From everything I've seen, the police tried to cover up an attempted murder. That's where they started. That's where the anger of this started from. The police tried to cover up. And his statement yesterday, Lynn, the chief superintendent's statement yesterday, was victim blaming. This lad who'd been battered within an inch of his life couldn't speak English. And we didn't get much sense out of him because of the state of his injuries. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. In the old days of genuine community police partnerships and the council being an honest broker, in the old days, a public meeting would be called at the Civic Centre, in the council chamber, at the community centre in Coldhurst. A public meeting would be called. And the councillors would provide the reassurance, and the police officers would turn up to take questions and be sensible in how they reacted and responded. But this is not the town we're now in. We're now in a town where corrupt police officers work in partnership with a corrupt council, interwoven with cartel-affiliated politicians. And it is a complete mess, and I genuinely fear what's going to happen next. Have a very good day. If you find value, please like, please share, and please buy me a coffee. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to my blog, £3 a month. Take care.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.